Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the May 8th, 2024 Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee. First of all, I'd like to introduce our City Attorney, David Lavelle. David, please explain the role of the public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the subcommittee members to listen to the comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments must be related to the item and the action being considered by the subcommittee. The subcommittee and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before the subcommittee in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing the subcommittee. The code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose their opportunity to continue to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would also like to introduce our interpreter, Carmen Cota, who will provide a brief announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Carmen Cota. Give me a minute to introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience. Buenos días, soy Carmen Cota. Les voy a servir de intérprete esta mañana. Si desean escuchar la reunión en español, por favor, alce la mano para que se le den auriculares para escucharla. Si piensan dar su comentario, hablen, pausen y denme la oportunidad de interpretarles de la forma más correcta posible. Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Carmen. Okay, before we actually get started, I want to take this opportunity to introduce our newest peer, Council Member Carlos Galindo Olvera, to this subcommittee. So, Carlos, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I also want to take this opportunity to recognize a group that's in the audience today, the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Association Leaders Program out of Arizona State University through the U.S. Department of Justice. You guys welcome. We'll get an opportunity to talk to you right afterwards. And Hector, thank you for bringing them along. Really appreciate it. So with that, thank you very much. Okay, yes. With that, item number 1 is approval of the Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee minutes from March 20th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much for that. Next, we move to our consent agenda, items 2 through 4. And we actually have a registered speaker for item number 2. But before we get to that, would any of my colleagues like a presentation first from staff or hear from the speaker? Oh, okay. And I know as for the speaker, Nicole Rodriguez, you only want to speak if necessary. Is that still the case if you're present?
I would like to speak regardless. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so I was hoping to provide comment after the presentation just to have better context, but the main intent for this is that one of the items of issue with the upcoming presentation is that we still do not have a platform for reporting any kind of damaged trees, removed trees, dying or decayed trees from commercial properties. And if you will recall, back in 2021, Planning and Development issued a text amendment called the Landscaping Text Amendment. And in that text amendment that was adopted by Council, NSD was charged with actually taking in complaints or reports, I should say, from citizens, residents, and businesses regarding any commercial property, including like multifamily and apartments as well, where a property does not comply with the landscape plans that they had submitted to the city prior to their certificate of occupancy. So with that ordinance that was implemented, I also remind folks to Councilman Sal DeCiccio was opposed to it because he didn't believe that NSD would put forth the effort to make it accessible and easy for people to understand they could do this report. And it still is not the case. So we need a platform to make it easier for folks to understand that they can report any issues for commercial properties that are not in compliance with their landscape plans. And it's pretty easy to see when a large tree is missing and not replaced for many, many years, or it's dead and dying and decayed. So I just wanted to urge folks here to look into this and for NSD to really make that platform available. It's not discernible via blight, and I serve as the vice chair on Encanto VPC. No one on Encanto seemed to be aware that they could do this as well. We're pretty engaged folks. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll remain on the line just in case there's any questions on this. Thank you.
Nicole, thank you very much for your comments. Do any of my colleagues have any comments on item number 2? Who from staff is here? Is it Spencer?
Mr. Chair, Spencer South, Neighborhood Services Director is here.
Thank you, Spencer. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to the caller's questions and comments about the ability to report commercial property that is not in compliance.
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington, absolutely. And the speaker brought up a great point and something that we have been discussing quite a bit, especially lately as our Office of Heat Response and Mitigation is looking at updating the city's tree and shade master plan. And so one of the things, a couple things that I want to clarify. This item today is about an update to our code enforcement policy, which is not the actual city code. It is simply a guide for how we enforce our city code. There are some changes that went into effect, as Nicole mentioned, related to how we are able to enforce related to trees that have been removed for commercial properties. One of the things that we've found since that code was implemented is it applies when we have a site plan that is specific to the requirements related to trees and that has the appropriate language in order to be able to enforce. So one of the things that we're looking at in coordination with our Office of Heat Response and Mitigation and our Planning and Development Department is looking at what properties we have appropriate site plans for. Right now, any resident can make a complaint by calling us at 602-534-4444, emailing us at blight@Phoenix.gov, or submitting a request through My Phoenix 311 through our other property complaints section. And we will do that investigation and we'll find out if there's an appropriate site plan on file, and we will go out and do the investigation if trees have been removed that are required. However, it is tricky because there are very few site plans that actually meet those requirements. So for the most part, when we have gone to enforce that particular section, we often don't have the teeth to be able to enforce. So we're working together to look at possible mechanisms to help improve our ability to enforce and for the community to identify when there is a potential violation and staff as well. Sorry, I know that was kind of lengthy in terms of the explanation, but it is sort of a loaded topic.
No, it's perfect. It gave an explanation to the caller's concern, so I thank you for that's it, Chair.
Okay. Spencer, Anna Maria, thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions for our staff on items 3 or 4? Okay, then do I have a motion on items 2 through 4? So moved. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to items 5 through 7 are for information only. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Councilwoman, Vice Mayor Stark.
Thank you. On item 7, Spencer, I know that you're trying to align the neighborhood specialists with council districts. However, for example, I had 2 that kind of overlapped in the district, and one of them was working on a business corridor, and I have gotten a request they'd like to keep her. Are there ways that we can kind of work through that with you?
Mr. Chair, Vice Mayor, absolutely. You know, whenever we make changes to our assignments when it comes to neighborhood specialists, it's a tricky thing because we have long-established relationships with those neighborhood specialists, and we don't like to make changes quickly.
Okay.
And we want to make sure there's a process to help do a warm handoff. However, there are some areas, even with these changes that we're implementing, where we will have some folks who stay on because there are particular
Okay.
initiatives or things that we're working on. So, absolutely.
Okay, the only reason I ask is they love her. And, I mean, I know you're trying to transition and make things work, and so if there's a transition period, that's fine. I just want to make sure I can tell the group that they can keep her for a while at least. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Spencer, two things stand out for me. Specifically the chart on page 7 in terms of overdoses by housing status, where the vast majority actually happen in a housed environment as opposed to the unhoused. And then the other one was during my briefing where fentanyl is the most talked about opioid overdose, but yet meth is not far behind and can be almost as toxic when you consider the consideration of the heat and the depression of thirst and hunger by meth. What type of follow-up will there be on that, and when do we expect the next report?
Mr. Chair and Councilman, I will defer to our Office of Public Health related to that particular question.
Actually, I'm going to apologize. I think what we did is we skipped to another item for your question.
Okay.
So, but we can get it answered now. Throw Ms. Soto will.
Yes, Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you, Councilman Galindo Alvia, for bringing that to light as we discussed in your briefing. You are correct to mention that, in fact, stimulants such as methamphetamine are occurring at a much higher rate for fatal overdoses here in our city. We've referred to information like our data that we'll be speaking to shortly to ensure that we are referring to data and having an evidence-based approach to our heat relief efforts this summer.
Thank you.
Spencer, thank you very much. Ms. Soto, I think you'll probably get to stay for a few minutes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, which is an update on the city's substance abuse and overdose dashboard. So, Ms. Soto, I think you're staying. Is Ms. Witt also present?
No, I will be presenting today.
The whole thing? Okay.
Good morning, Chair and members of the subcommittee. I am pleased to join you this morning to launch the Phoenix Substance Use and Overdose Dashboard. To begin, between 2019 and 2021, the rate of fatal overdose in Phoenix increased 39%. In 2021, the City of Phoenix signed on to the One Arizona Agreement, which sets out the framework for spending settlement dollars and includes recommendations for approved expenses. Last month, we joined a subcommittee to review the results of various assessments completed in 2023 to identify priorities for funding, of which local data and surveillance was identified. And today, we are here to launch the Phoenix Substance Use and Overdose Dashboard and making local data available. Suspected overdoses are determined based on fire EMS responses. Suspected opioid overdoses are determined by symptomology, where overdose symptoms are noted and where naloxone was administered by EMS. The Phoenix Substance Use and Overdose Dashboard is an opportunity for collective partnership between public health and public safety as well. And our dashboard communicates suspected overdose, fatal overdoses, and naloxone information. Suspected overdoses are determined based on fire EMS responses and are determined by symptomology, where overdose symptoms are noted and where naloxone was administered by EMS and the patient showed signs of improvement or response. Data is based on information reported in the Phoenix Fire EMS electronic patient care record and is updated monthly. It should be noted that this data is likely an undercount, as they are not confirmed cases. This data is updated monthly. Fatal overdose data comes from the Maricopa County Office of the Medical Examiner and is based on cause of death toxicology. The Maricopa County Department of Public Health reviews and cleans the data and provides drug-related death data for Phoenix to the Office of Public Health. Fatal overdoses include all drug-related deaths, and each fatal overdose often involves more than one drug. This data will be updated annually for the most recent year available, and in this case, it's 2022. Naloxone information is reported by the Office of Public Health. It is updated monthly and includes the total number of naloxone kits distributed to community through the city's naloxone program. In addition, naloxone administration prior to EMS arrival, as reported in Phoenix Fire EPCR, is included on the dashboard. Next, we will view a series of slides highlighting some main data graphs as they will appear on the dashboard. We visually communicate and share this data with respect and compassion, acknowledging that the information shared and communicated represents loved ones, family members, and friends of our Phoenix community who are impacted by substance use. Fatal overdoses by year. Fatal overdoses will be available and updated annually. 2022 is the most recent year available. In 2022, there were over 4,000 suspected opioid overdoses, and in 2023, there were over 4,500 suspected opioid overdoses. Fatal overdoses will be available and updated annually. In 2022 is the most recent year available. In 2021, there were 991 overdoses, and in 2023, 1,023. Suspected overdoses will be reported by month for each year and year to date. In 2023, Fire EMS responded to an average of 358 suspected overdoses per month in the city, with the highest number in any year during the month of July, above the average with 536 suspected opioid overdose responses. These trends inform our planning, in particular for the summer, and the need to incorporate overdose prevention into our efforts. When looking at suspected opioid overdoses by age, 66% of all suspected opioid overdoses in 2023 were among people aged 25 to 55 years of age. When looking at fatal overdoses by age group, as shown here, the data mirrors our suspected overdoses, where 68% are also among people aged 25 to 55. Majority of suspected overdoses occur among males with 71%. And similarly, at 78% of our fatal overdoses were among males as well. This graph shows the number of suspected opioid overdoses per year by housing status and includes the housing status of the patient at the time of the incident as recorded in EPCR, with 69% being among housed. Persons experiencing homelessness is indicated for patients where the address is a known shelter or the patient reports they are homeless. In this case, homelessness status is unknown, thus this may be an undercount. This graph shows the total number of fatal overdoses per year caused by any drug or combination of drugs by housing status. 70% are among housed individuals. Homelessness information is obtained by matching data to Maricopa County's Office of the Medical Examiner generated lists of decedents who were known to be homeless at the time of death. Investigators obtain this information from law enforcement reports, hospital reports, and from interviews with family members and next of kin. In some cases, homelessness status is unknown, thus may be an undercount. The dashboard will also feature the top 5 locations for suspected opioid overdoses. These are where responses occurred and may not be where the person consumed their drugs. In 2023, private residence was the most common location suspected overdose with 39%, followed by transportation and roadways with 36%. This category includes sidewalks, bus stops, airport, light rail, and any location associated with vehicular traffic, including train tracks. The location defined as business accounts for approximately 7% and includes commercial, retail, private businesses. Medical and support services include medical centers, hospitals, substance use treatment centers, and account for 4% of the total suspected overdoses. And lastly, transitional housing, which includes shelters, campgrounds, hotels, and any housing not intended for permanent residents, accounted for 4%. All other locations are grouped under other and include locations such as urban environment, which accounted for less than 2% of the total overdoses. This includes parks and athletic fields, which was just over 1%. An interactive map will also display the number of fatal overdoses in 2022. Fatal overdoses caused by any drug or combination of drugs by zip code. Zip codes will be with less than 5 are not displayed. Zip codes are represented on this map, made across multiple city boundaries, and counts reflect all intersecting cities and are not constrained by Phoenix city limits. The number of naloxone take-home kits by the Office of Public Health citywide naloxone program since the program started in August 2023 is reported by month. Over 6,700 naloxone kits have been distributed to community. Dashboard features also include, where possible, data is broken down by demographic factors like age, sex, housing, race, ethnicity, and location. Graphs allow the user to hover over them to get more detailed information. Charts can be viewed in full screen, downloaded, and printed. And when available, data is shown in interactive maps. The dashboard can be translated into numerous languages, and there are links to resources and more information are also provided. Next steps, today's launch of the dashboard will also be accompanied by a community campaign to increase community awareness and education, data communication, and visualization for the community. In phase 2, an overdose alert system will be launched by tracking daily trends, inform priorities and planning, and allow for monitoring and evaluation. There are 2 ways to navigate to the dashboard today, one via the Office of Public Health website, and 2 showcased on the phoenixopendata.com site. This concludes the presentation and available for questions at this time.
Soto, thank you very much. I'll make a quick comment and see if any of my colleagues have any questions for you. I've played around a little bit with the interactive feature, and it's extremely informative. So you and your folks are to be congratulated for that, because I think it really adds for the ability for most people, or almost anybody for that matter, to really find out, I think, what is valuable information. So with that, thank you very much. So I'll turn to my colleagues. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you again for the presentation, very, very informative. I just had a couple of questions regarding some, I guess, a data set that's being considered or being used. For example, our suspected overdose is being updated monthly versus our fatal overdose are going to be updated annually. And according to this, the last one was 2022. Mm-hmm. Do we have any timeline or any understanding of when the 2023 data will be provided? And then my second question is there any way we could update this at least maybe twice a year so we can see if we're trending in the right direction versus waiting until as can pass for the fatal overdose information?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councilwoman and Chair and members of the Council. To the first point regarding the lag of fatal overdoses in previous years, that is due to suspected not being confirmed cases. And so in order for fatal overdoses to be confirmed, they need to go through the process of the Office of the Medical Examiner at the county level, and then verified and confirmed by our local county health department. That does take time, unfortunately, to get all of that confirmatory information, and so that we are not providing only provisional data. To your point of, can we report, half year, maybe 6-month increments? That might be possible if we do have some provisional information from the county health department, but that would be, of course, us communicating and learning from them if provisional information is available at, let's say, the 6-month mark.
Well, I would ask that if it's a possibility for us to at least inquire whether or not provisional information is
Sure.
attainable. We can put an asterisk or some kind of disclaimer on the website to indicate that information is still being verified. Mm-hmm. But I just think it's important for us to track whether or not we are have a more real-time touch on our actual trends in that area. So thank you for that. And my next question was on slide number 16, based on overdose by location. Is it possible to do any further breakdown on the transportation and roadways to see if there is a specific place that tends to see more suspected overdose type of behavior, so that we could determine whether or not we need to be more specific with our outreach and certain. I'm just trying to figure out how we can move from data to implementation in a manner that moves the needle for the affected population.
Absolutely. Chair and members of the council, to your point, that is exactly the idea and intention behind creating something like a tool, like a dashboard. We want to have a tool to refer to inform planning. To answer your question in short, we do have subcategories of the general category of transportation. So there's possibility. And right now on the dashboard, it is reported in aggregate, so meaning all of those together. But if there is one particular area, we could look into data to see if that is available.
And then the other, I was writing notes, and based on what I have, is that reflects primarily our urban parks.
That includes, yeah, that is included there. Since they have a small percentage, about 2%, 1%, I believe, over 1%, less than 2.
Yeah,
yes, that includes other.
And just one more question I had was on your slide 20. Just wanted a little more explanation on what was intended on the phase 2 rollout.
Yeah, so phase 2 rollout will provide us that time to, as you mentioned earlier, track any trends related to the data that we're seeing as much as possible. That would be informed most likely by our suspected overdose responses, because that is updated monthly through our fire EMS EPCR system, as opposed to our fatal information that, of course, as we mentioned, is a bit more lagged at the annual basis. But our suspected information, it's a first of its kind for us to really refer to local data to inform our planning efforts. And it's really exciting to have this information out at our fingertips and to be able to maybe continue to manipulate it and use it in creative ways and overall to inform our approaches in responding.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but when do we anticipate the phase 2 rollout? Do we have a time frame?
Time frame is as soon as possible. Today is our official launch of the external dashboard. To note, this process did take close to maybe a year or just a little over that, but our phase 2 really is in motion at the moment. So the fact that we do have our external dashboard now ready for the public, know that behind the scenes we've created our motion for phase 2 and look forward to sharing that update with subcommittee in the near future.
Thank you for answering my question. Thank you again for the presentation, very informative, and thank you for the work that you do. That's it, Chair.
Thank you for your presentation. Very good, very comprehensive. My question is, can you share with us the components of the communication campaign?
Sure. Communication campaign will also launch today, and with our communications office, our public information officer will be sharing information across departments so that internally, interdepartmentally, we can get this information out to community. The Office of Public Health also has a really great connection to community. If we need to be invited to any community level meetings that we can present to, share the presentation about the dashboard, share our plans for opioid settlement dollars. That's something we've been doing over the last a year and a half, and we will continue to do that in phase 2. Thank you.
Again, Ms. Soto, thank you very much. It was an exceptional presentation.
Thank you.
So next, we'll move to item number 9, an update from the library about this year's summer reading program. And we'll welcome to the table Acting Library Director Mitch Machaka, and Carl Kendall and Wendy Resnick, Deputy Library Director and the Youth Services Coordinator. So, welcome.
Good morning, Chair Robinson and members of the subcommittee. The Phoenix Public Library connects today's community to a world of possibilities. Last fiscal year, Phoenix Public Libraries welcomed over 2 million visitors to our 17 locations across the city. And now we have our bookmobile that you learned about a couple of months ago, and we will build 2 new branches with the passing of the Go Bond program. The library has something for everyone in our community, including public programs, computers, classes, ways to start a business, college access, and obviously books and programs that provide access to school readiness and early literacy for our young people. I am excited to have my colleagues, Carl Kendall, Deputy Library Director, and Wendy Resnick, Children and Teen Services Coordinator, here today. Carl will present on our annual summer reading program that kicked off registration this month. All council offices will receive information for their newsletters and social media after this meeting in English and Spanish. Wendy will give an overview of our services to children and teens, and thank you all for supporting the Phoenix Public Library, and I've had the pleasure of seeing you at our branches and I'm hosting a couple of you this coming week. I will now turn the presentation over to Carl to start us out on our adventure of summer reading at the library.
Thank you, Mitch. Good morning, Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee. As Mitch mentioned, I'm going to update you on our summer reading program and provide a brief overview, and Wendy will provide a brief overview of our other programs and services for youth. So, we are so excited about our summer reading theme this year, which is Adventure Begins at Your Library. That's a national theme that you'll see all over the country this year, and it's such an apt way to describe a library to kids. But there's a secret theme that librarians and educators know, and I'll let you guys in on it now, and that is learning doesn't stop in the summer at your library, because that's the whole point of summer reading, to stem the learning loss when school is out. Studies have shown that students can lose the equivalent of 2 to 4 months of learning in the summer, particularly in reading and math. They start the next school year behind, and the effects can be cumulative over time. Our goal as the library is to keep kids reading, engaged, and having fun in the summer. When it's 115 degrees out, the library is one of the few, and I'll stress this, free educational and air conditioning outings for families, which is why our door count is typically up by about 15% during the summer months. We have tons of free programs, everything from African dance troupes to zoo programs, magicians, jugglers, puppets, much more. The game's structured around the recommendation that school-age kids read at least 20 minutes a day. Of course, the game is open to all ages, though, and we especially encourage caregivers to sign up with their kids to set a good example. Last summer, more than 23,500 Phoenicians participated in the summer reading program. This year, we'd like to hit 25,000 and actually surpass that, which would be the highest number that we've had in a decade. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish. We're setting up some special outreaches to other summer programs like the Boys and Girl Clubs, summer school programs at Washington Elementary, as well as other school districts, and also our partners in parks and public housing. Our librarians spend this month coming up, that we're in now in May, reaching out, going out to schools while they're still in session, presenting to the students and getting them signed up and prepared for the game that starts in June. As part of that, our community relations team created a wonderful promotional video in both English and Spanish to show in the classrooms during those visits, and I'd like to now play one of those videos for you.
Hi, I'm Matthew from Phoenix Public Library. Do you like adventure? Do you like free prizes like this one? Well, I challenge you and your friends to play our summer reading game. From making a cool cake to checking out robots, there's so much you can do at your local library. You can check out free books at the library that can teleport you to space or jungles and so much more. Ask your parents or your caregivers to create a profile on MaricopaCountyReads.org. You can sign up today and start counting your minutes on June 1st. Make sure to enter all your minutes on MaricopaCountyReads.org by the end of the game on August 1st. The free game is for all ages, so you and your entire family can play and win together. Visit your local Phoenix Public Library to pick up a game board. You earn 1 point for every minute you read. There are special challenges and activities to earn even more points, like recommending a book to a friend. All right, here's the challenge. Earn 1,000 points and win all the prizes. Are you up for it? Visit one of our 17 Phoenix Public Library locations for more information and check out our calendar of free summer events at phoenixpubliclibrary.org. Adventure is out there. We'll see you this summer at the Phoenix Public Library. Happy reading.
Right, and now I'd like to turn it over to our Children and Teen Services Coordinator, Wendy Resnick.
Thank you, Carl. Chair Robinson and subcommittee members, I've been overseeing youth services at Phoenix Public Library for 12 years, and I am so proud of what we've accomplished to make the library more child-centered. Our work is guided by research and brain development. We are data-driven and laser-focused on filling the gaps in education. I'm going to give you a brief overview, and then we'd be happy to take your questions. So this little guy on the slide is our future, and importantly, 90% of his brain development happens by age 5. If he is one of the 22% of youngsters that attend Head Start or another high-quality child care program, he is off to a great start. He will likely arrive in kindergarten with the school readiness skills to learn. But if he is not enrolled in a quality program, his bright start is not guaranteed, especially if he is among the almost 30% of Phoenix children growing up in poverty. At Phoenix Public Library, we focus on the second group. Our strategy is to empower the caregivers, whether they are parents, grandparents, aunties, nannies, or teachers, to make sure they are doing their level best to prepare children for school. We do workshops with the caregivers, but even our storytime programs are adult education with singing and dancing. We also engage our community partners who work with these families to expand and amplify our programs. For the purposes of library collections, programs, and services, we divide the youth market into 3 age groups: the birth to 5, school-age children, and teens. With the youngest children, our focus is on early literacy and school readiness skills, and of course, supporting the caregivers. During the elementary years, the focus shifts to STEM and STEAM learning. We work more with teachers at this point by doing classroom visits and library tours. And for teens, the focus is on providing a safe and non-judgmental environment and a sense of agency. Let's talk about birth to 5. I didn't know a lot about that particular segment when I took this job, but I quickly learned how foundational it is. Not only is the architecture of the brain developing, but there is a pruning process going on as well to remove neural connections that are not stimulated. That's why we had to make story time much more intentional. It's more scripted now. Every program begins with a specific early learning message, and then all the activities in the program support that message. It's still fun, but it's purposeful. Our presenters use the I, we, you model. I demonstrate, we do it together, you do it at home. And we spend a lot more time now training and supporting our staff to do this important work. We've also created new school readiness programs for 3 to 5-year-olds, kindergarten boot camp, and tools for school, which are based on Arizona standards for kindergarten. We hired a kindergarten teacher to create the curriculum because teachers were telling us that the biggest obstacle to getting children reading on grade level by 3rd grade is kindergartners who lacked the foundational skills to learn. It's such a slow start if they're not ready. And it's not just ABCs, although that's part of it, but it's the social emotional skills that prepare a child to listen, to follow directions, to take turns, to participate in discussion. One of the first rules of boot camp is that children must answer questions in complete sentences, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but that can be really hard for a 4-year-old who's not used to having a back and forth conversation with adults. More than 3,500 children have been through this 7-week program. Last year, we rolled out a new year-round reading program called 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, which simply reminds grown-ups how important it is to read to children every day. Finally, we worked with the Office of Youth and Education to bring 2 family resource centers to libraries, one at Burton Bar and one at Cesar Chavez Library in Levine. These one-stop centers offer referrals and programming for families on everything from car safety to nutrition. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the support we have received for this work from First Things First, several million dollars over the last dozen years from this state agency that is funded by tobacco taxes. Our programming philosophy extends to our children's spaces. Every library has some elements of intentional play because play is the business of children and it's how they learn. Pictured on this slide is the amazing light-changing wall that is part of a large installation at Burton Bar. This is a great cause and effect interactive for children that teaches early STEM concepts. And then on the bottom of the slide is a pretend library at Desert Sage. What's lovely about this piece is it's so easy to configure it to be a post office or a bank or a puppet theater, so it provides great imaginative play. And these exhibits are all designed and manufactured by a local woman-owned business that specializes in museum-quality installations for libraries. With our grade school kids, we've moved from crayons to coding. The big focus is STEM and STEAM programs. The library led the way with teaching coding and robotics. Many of our libraries have weekly STEM and makerspace programs. Here we have a young girl trying out augmented reality for the first time, and also a picture of some of the thousands of customers who participated in our solar eclipse gatherings. These are often the kinds of programs, hands-on programs, that are being cut from school curriculums. Of course, as Carl mentioned, we have summer reading and special programs during school breaks. We have a lot of passive activities, so there's always something new to explore. When the library was shuttered because of COVID, we put together book bags for kids and teens and tens of thousands of take-home craft kits that they could pick up at curbside. 10 years ago, we started the Amazing Library Card campaign, which created a huge boost in classroom visits. Every fall, we reach out to schools all over Phoenix to make sure students have library cards. We routinely issue 3,000 to 5,000 new cards every season. We've also built strong partnerships with other city departments. The library is a founding member of Read On Phoenix, the community collective led by Tim Valencia in the Office of Youth and Education. We work with Parks and Rec to do story times in parks, and we created 3 permanent story walk trails at Chavez Park, Edison Park, and Harmon Park. Finally, we've been partnering with public housing on a book-rich environment grant through Housing and Urban Development. Every year, we receive 10,000 to 15,000 new children's books for distribution in public housing and through outreach to surrounding communities. Because the data is clear, children who grow up in homes with books are more successful. So last but not least, our teens. Teen Central at Burton Bar has been around for more than 20 years, and we were the second library in the country to designate a dedicated teen space. Our motto has always been by and for teens. We let them lead, we let them run teen councils, plan events, pursue their interests. And I brought copies of this, which I'll give you afterwards, but this is a great example. This is a zine that the teens in Maryvale put together with the librarian at Palo Verde Library. They chose a theme of mental health, and it's just really an outstanding piece. Teens need to have a safe space where they can relax with their friends. You know about College Depot and how it provides a pathway to higher education, assisting teens and families with applications, scholarships, and financial aid. But did you know that for thousands of kids, the library was their first job? Carl was a teen volunteer. Not that long ago.
A couple years ago.
Yeah. Many of my volunteers have gone on to work at libraries. We hire teen volunteers year-round, but especially in the summer. This year, we will have more than 150 teens helping out with our summer reading program. And we take that seriously. They have to apply through the city volunteer portal. They have to have interviews and lots of customer service training. And my hope is that they keep that volunteer job on their resumes because it's evidence of a committed and focused future leader. That concludes my overview. Thank you so much for listening to us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It was a wonderful presentation. I want to make a couple of quick comments, and I'll check with my colleagues for questions. But when you talk about the importance of foundational reading and learning, I couldn't be more agreeable with that issue. I think, you know, I teach criminology at Arizona State University, and one of the things we do know when it comes to studying criminology, kids who have a poor start, poor reading skills and everything along those lines, have a tendency to veer off into a life of criminality. So what you're doing is important to the future of our communities, and I really thank you for that. And the last mention I will make, a little bit of a plug for District 6. We're going to be at Century Library tomorrow. I think we're going to be filming a segment with a local author, a woman by the name of Alexandra Bracken. Last name may sound familiar to you, but she's the sister of one of our staffers, and she's a well-known artist, and we're doing an interview with her, then we're doing a tour of the library. So we're going to do our part to really push all things library out for you this summer, and we really appreciate all that you are doing. So with that, do I have any questions from any of my colleagues?
I have a question. I had more of a comment. My old Mitch, Carl, Wendy, phenomenal presentation. Libraries make me happy. I go back to my middle school and high school. I spent a lot of time in the library. Precursor to my career as a lawyer, where I knew I'd have to be reading, but I do agree with what Chair mentioned. It's a very important foundation for our next generation. Thank you for all that you do, and we are looking forward to ways that we, our office in District 8, can partner on some of the initiatives, whether or not it's ensuring the summer reading program is a success, as well as intentional spaces or volunteers. So thank you for all that you do, and I'm confident that we will exceed the 25,000 students participating in the reading. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I applaud the work of the staff that's here today. I had a chance to visit with them a couple of weeks ago and saw firsthand their dedication, their complete commitment to children of all ages. And I was the beneficiary of a summer reading program at the Hayden Public Library, so I know how important those summer activities are, especially in helping to keep kids focused on something. And somebody who was mischievous as I was, it was really beneficial to me. I am all for the goal of 25K plus. I think you all will reach it, and I look forward to stopping by again, not just at Burton Bar, which is one of the gems of District 7, but also to visit other public libraries within District 7 and to check in on the program and hopefully participate in some way. Thank you.
I guess I'll have to comment too. No, of course, who doesn't love a library? I got to tell you, one of my favorite little programs are the Seeds, and so my son loves to garden, and I think he was inspired by the Phoenix Library in your program.
There being no additional questions, I Do I have a motion? Oh,
This
why
was
is it
just for
written here? No, there is,
information.
no, it's just for information, right? Okay, sorry about that, thank you very much. Then, got ahead of myself. The next item is item number 10. Mitch Machaka will remain at the table, and as the city's Arts and Culture Director, and we'll welcome Carrie Brown to the table as well. Oh, yes.
All right, well, good morning again, Chair Robinson and members of the subcommittee. Since its establishment in 1986, the Arts and Culture Department's Public Art Program has been a national model for involving artists in designing and building a better city. The program enhances the look, feel, and function of a wide range of public buildings, spaces, and infrastructure by fostering collaborations among artists, engineers, landscape architects, and other urban designers and thinkers. Beyond an aesthetic impact on the community, the arts can help solve civic issues like security and heat mitigation. They have an economic impact on the community and jobs for our residents, not only for our artists, but also for the fabricators and trades professionals who bring these projects to life. The department develops the plan annually with input and assistance from mayor and council, city residents, artists, and city departments, and the Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission, which approved this plan at their last meeting. The plan identifies and budgets public art projects citywide, coinciding with the annual capital improvement program budget each year. My colleague, Carrie Brown, Deputy Arts and Culture Director, will give an overview of the fiscal year 24-29 plan and ask for your recommendation to the City Council to approve the plan at their next formal meeting. Thank you for supporting our community's arts and culture. I'll now turn it over to Carrie.
Thanks, Mitch. Good morning, Chair Robinson, members of the subcommittee. I'm excited to be here today to share with you some highlights from our 2024 to 2029 Public Art Plan. So, as you know, City Council established the Percent for Art Ordinance in 1986, which requires 1% of capital improvement program funds to be invested in public art and requires our department, Arts and Culture, to submit an annual 5-year public art plan. This year's plan totals just over $25 million and includes 13 new projects. This budget is $5.2 million higher than last year's plan and our largest 5-year budget to date. That increase is largely due to a major expansion project at Sky Harbor Airport, which we are already working with the aviation department on. The public art projects included in the plan are prioritized based on opportunities to integrate artwork into individual CIP projects and their potential to impact the surrounding neighborhood. The plan focuses on the equitable distribution of funds as allowable by the ordinance and the diversification of the public art collection through broadening types of opportunities, as well as continued outreach to new artists and new arts organizations. Of the 48 projects included in the plan, 9 address major retrofit or refurbishments, 7 support citywide initiatives like heat mitigation, and 3 are a component of long-range planning efforts like Rio Reimagined. So I wanted to share a few highlights from the plan. First, these are some of our new projects, including the terminal expansion project I previously mentioned. In addition, we'll be working with the Street Transportation Department on Dobbins Road and 3rd Street improvements, with the Water Department on a new reservoir in North Phoenix, and also repairing Sonoran Desert Drive, a roadway project in District 2, and the Dreamy Draw pedestrian bridge in District 3. We've also included in the plan Percent for Art funding from the Go Bond program. We've had some preliminary discussions with departments about the projects listed here, but nothing is final just yet. We'll be working closely with the project managers and department leadership to evaluate each project and to determine the best opportunities for public art within each proposition. Here you see some of our continuing projects like 100 West Washington, which will be the new police headquarters, and the Grand Canal project in Maryvale. We also have several parks projects, including Lone Mountain, Levine, and South Mountain Parks, as well as Cortez Park and Wellsite, which is nearing completion of the design concept. And finally, McDowell Road and Deer Valley Airport, which are still in the early planning phases. The vast majority of our projects take multiple years to complete, so you'll see several of them listed in more than one plan. And a few more of our continuing projects that will be completed this fiscal year, including the 32nd Street Drought Pipeline Streetscape project, which is currently being fabricated, and the Solano Park project, which will be begin its installation later this month. We also anticipate completing an interior mural for the Payment Center at 305 West Washington and the relocation of Bloom Canopy, an artist-designed shade structure, to El Reposo Park. One of our new long-term initiatives is to replace, repair, and produce identification plaques and interpretive signage. As you can imagine, some of our signage is outdated and some even non-existent. So this initiative will assess the entire public art collection and ensure every project is properly identified. And we're also continuing our collaborative neighborhood projects with our 2 pilot projects with Hatcher Urban Businesses and the Bell Road Business Alliance. The map included in the plan shown here highlights new and continuing projects, but does not include long-term initiatives or the Go Bond projects, as those will occur in multiple locations. Mapping out the projects like this helps us to evaluate the distribution of funds and identify what projects will best meet our program goals and provide meaningful opportunities for artists. And last but not least, I wanted to highlight our most recent achievement that is being selected as one of 8 winners of Bloomberg Philanthropies Public Art Challenge. This prestigious grant award supports temporary public art projects that address important civic issues in cities nationwide. Our project, which is a partnership with the Office of Innovation, the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, and the Parks and Recreation Department, will commission 9 artists to create shade and cooling installations in response to extreme urban heat. These projects will be installed in parks throughout the city in the spring of 2025, and the grant will culminate in a free one-day festival at Steele Indian School Park in September 2025. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I will open the floor for additional comments or questions from my colleagues. Questions? Okay, if not, do I have a motion? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. Now, our final action item for today is item number 11. Coming to the table is Eric Johnson, Assistant Community Economic Development Director, Nathan Wright, Deputy Community and Economic Development Director, and Brad Schmidt, the GPEC Senior Vice President of Business and Development. So, gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll turn it over to you. Eric?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the subcommittee. We appreciate the opportunity today to talk about some of the successes and great efforts that have come out of our partnership with our Greater Phoenix Economic Council partners, and also explain to you the high value return that we get from this contract before we ask for some more funding for it. With that, today we have Brad Schmidt, the Executive Vice President of GPEC, and Nathan Wright, our Deputy Director for Business Attraction. With that, I'll hand it off to Nate.
Eric. I have the privilege of working closely with GPEC in my role in business attraction. The City of Phoenix was a founding member back in 1989 for GPEC, and they really are the single most important partner that we have in helping create great jobs for the citizens of Phoenix. And they're consistently ranked as the top economic development organization in the country, and that's just not by popularity, it's based on raw data, which is total prospects, total jobs, total investment. I think that's 7 times in a row that they've won that award, and they really do make us look good. They're traveling the country, actually they're traveling the world, going to trade shows, engaging with companies, marketing the Valley, Phoenix, and Greater Phoenix, and they've been instrumental in every major announcement that we've had in the Valley over the years. And just a quick example of this is back in 2016, a company came into the Valley. They ultimately decided it wasn't the right time. On the exit interview, though, GPEC engaged with them and wrote down a list of why they didn't decide to locate. They worked on the list, they stay engaged with the company, and then in 2019, the mayor and others traveled to Taiwan, to TSMC, were able to show how they solved for all their concerns and ultimately resulted in one of the largest investments in our country's history. So they provide tremendous value. And with that, I'll turn the time over to Brad.
All right, good morning, Chair Robinson, members of the subcommittee. My pleasure to be here today, and thank you again for your continued investment with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Again, my name is Brad Schmidt. I'm the Senior Vice President of our Business Development Group. Been with GPEC for over 24 years now, and really enjoy working at a regional economic development level. And if you're not familiar with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, we are we were ranked the 8th time in a row as one of the top economic development organizations in the country by a lot of site selection consultants and companies that we work with across the country and internationally. We work with our 22 member communities throughout the greater Phoenix area along with 2 counties. And really our goal is to provide data-driven research to companies to help them make that relocation decision into the greater Phoenix area. So we're providing them a wide variety of data on labor, cost comparisons, tax information, et cetera, to help them in their process of finalizing a location here within the United States, hopefully Arizona, and hopefully the city of Phoenix and across the greater Phoenix area. It's our 34th year in business. We've helped, assisted over 1,000 companies in location decision here into the metropolitan area. And I say assist because it's not just GPEC that is involved in this process. It is certainly, we work hand in hand with our communities and with our state partners at the Arizona Commerce Authority. One of the other roles that we provide is really to not only attract and grow quality businesses, as you see there in our mission, but to advocate for the competitiveness of the greater Phoenix area. And doing that by working with mayor and councils throughout the region, as well as our state legislature and the governor's office, to ensure that this area, this region, the state remains competitive for these high value, high capital investment and high wage job projects. If you look at our, over the last 5 years, we've assisted, again, over 214 locates into the greater Phoenix area. 76 of these, which is about 35%, have located within the city of Phoenix, creating over 13,800 jobs and over $36 billion in new capital investment. Again, this is a team effort with our partners at the economic development offices at the city, along with other groups as well, universities, private sector businesses, et cetera. Certainly the city of Phoenix benefits from projects and the activities that we are involved in occurring across the region. Our assisted locates have created over 25,000 jobs region-wide for the city of Phoenix residents over the past 5 years. And we have multiple studies to show that employees that will live and spend in all the greater Phoenix communities. So as the company locates here within the greater Phoenix area, people tend to spend money. If they work at that location, they tend to spend money either near where they live or near where they work. And so again, those companies, those jobs and wages are really benefiting a lot of different cities within the area. So again, when a company selects a greater Phoenix area, all communities benefit really with increased tax revenues across the metro area. Here are our numbers as of March 31st, this fiscal year 24. You'll see we have a little over $342 million in payroll generated, created a little over 5,000 jobs in 35 assisted locates, of which 2,662 have been high wage jobs with an average salary of a little over $68,203. Right now, our qualified prospects for this fiscal year through the end of March, 197 new prospects, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of what those prospects look like here in a minute. This fiscal year, again, through March 31st, we've had a very attractive and busy year. We're about 113% of our current fiscal year goal, and about 112% of over where we were last year at this same time period. I'm pleased to say our international prospects continue to be very active right now, especially with TSMC's expansion here in the market. We're seeing a lot of interest from APAC regions, Europe, et cetera, especially in semiconductor manufacturing, a lot in EV battery manufacturing and other advanced manufacturing type operations. Again, the 35 companies you see there that have located this fiscal year have created over $2.5 billion in capital investment and over 5,100 new jobs in the area.
I'm going to walk you through some of the locates that we've seen this fiscal year. This is a good sampling of what the activity that the city of Phoenix has seen. You see about 4 semiconductor suppliers. The average salary of all these companies is over $80,000, $82,000. The capital investment of these companies on the average is about $24 million. And yeah, over 2,400 jobs total. You see bioscience and healthcare companies here, 2 of them, a food company, Olam Nuts. Advanced manufacturing continues to be very active, over 70% of what we see, providing really high wage jobs. And we're happy to see some office activity with Peckham. That was the top office deal in calendar year 2023, over 600 jobs, and a new office there with Republic Services' new headquarters. Pass it over to Brad.
I mentioned earlier the 197 prospects we've seen so far this fiscal year. Since the start of COVID, we saw a trend towards a lot more industrial projects. You see there our industrial prospects are about 80% of our overall pipeline, meaning office is about 20%. A majority of our office projects have been smaller, as a lot of companies, certainly those that employ a lot of people in office-type environments, are still struggling somewhat with their kind of return to office policies and getting people and their employees back into those office spaces. So the need for those kind of larger spaces that we've seen throughout the region and the city of Phoenix is still kind of evolving. I'm pleased to say we have seen in the last about 2 months about 5 new prospects with over 1,000 jobs in the office sector. So I think we're seeing slowly kind of a return to some of these type of projects. Our industrial deals have been very active, again, with about 80% of our overall pipeline. Most of them are over 100,000 square feet. And there has been a lot of reshoring activity and activity, again, from our international prospects. I think with the IRA, a lot of U.S. legislation, IRA, the CHIPS Act is really pushing a lot of new investment, certainly for high-tech advanced manufacturing projects into the United States. And I think Arizona, Greater Phoenix is certainly a beneficiary of that investment. So with that, we're seeing groups like solar cell, panel manufacturing, electric vehicles, battery manufacturing, for both cars and long-term energy storage. Certainly semiconductor supply chain with TSMC's and Intel's expansion here in the market, aerospace aviation, as well as other warehousing and light industrial projects that service the population here in the market.
Brad, and as you see, there's tremendous value gained to the city of Phoenix by this partnership, $138 of direct revenue for every dollar invested by the city. The cities make up about 40% of GPEC's overall budget, with the private sector the other 60%. And we're here today. Each year the request fluctuates because it's based upon population, and today population counts, it's about $823,701 that we're asking for this next fiscal year. And with that, I'll pass it over to Eric Johnson.
Thank you, and that concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, Eric, Brad, and Nathan, thank you very much. It was an exceptional presentation, and I think we all recognize the importance of GPEC to specifically Phoenix, but to the overall Phoenix area. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? There being none, do I have a motion? We have a motion? A second, motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Really appreciate it. Like I said, the presentation was exceptional and really appreciate the information. That was the last item for today. Well, actually, the last item today is a call to the public. I know we have a couple of speakers, and the first I have is Elizabeth Venable.
Hello. Good morning. Salamat pagi. In any case, I wanted to talk today about something that kind of frames the way I perceive my reality that you might not expect, although some of you might expect at this point. And that is the concept of performance management when you're looking at the ways that housing resources are allocated and how to reconceptualize success and how we can achieve success. And one of the things that I've had a problem with is sometimes the budget allocations that seem to accompany housing or homelessness projects, you know, they don't correspond with the outcomes. And sometimes the outcomes of the projects that receive larger amounts of funding actually are pretty poor, and they're more ideological, such as the, you know, I won't call it safe, but the unsafe outdoor space, you know, which can cause organ damage regardless of whether or not fatalities occur. You know, that costs $10.4 million. Almost nobody is utilizing it compared to the so-called capacity of that space. That is more money than was given to the affordable housing units, for example, where you can house, you know, literally 400, if not more people, you know, depending on how strict the rules are on how many people can live in an apartment, right? That $9 million, great investment, you know. The 3 years of an outdoor lot where people, you know, only have the option to sleep outside and there's cooling only in the day, like, you know, these are things that really need to be reconsidered under performance management. I would offer the concepts of diversity, looking at diverse populations, not just leading, quote unquote, with services, which is basically only offering housing for SMI and substance users up front after they go through certain programs. I would offer addressing, though, people with substance use disorder in a way that allows them to lower the barriers so that they don't overdose on the streets, and they're more likely to accept, you know, services and treatment because they're receiving housing that may be actually a low barrier as opposed to the unsafe outdoor space. I think it's important to consider what the limitations are on the spaces. I also think it's important to have some form of oversight over to what is funded, because a lot of these spaces have like black mold. The people are getting kicked out in a month because the vouchers are running out. I'm talking about multiple facilities funded, I think, through the city, and you know, are dangerous sometimes. And it's like, do I report them or do I not? Because will they be closed because of the black mold, things like that. So I would really consider just upping the performance management concept and looking to where the failures are.
Okay, Elizabeth, thank you very much. Next, we have Frank Urban.
Hello there. I am with Fund for Empowerment, like Elizabeth. I would like to speak on housing. We need more affordable housing, especially for the homeless. I'm talking housing affordable for everyone. Because there's not enough housing, put it point blankly. And like Elizabeth said, you know, it has to be not only affordable but appropriate for the person. Like, say, a person with a pet, like a dog or something. The shelter that they go to should accept animals. Or for SMI, they should have counselors and treatment options for them. And same thing for, you know, same thing for the substance abuse. They should have counselors and programs to get them off the drugs and such, and or the alcohol, whichever. And with that, I'll close.
Okay, Frank, thank you very much. Next, we have Tony Harris.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw the funding, the budget chart, and it seemed like the funding for homeless is pretty low, considering the amount of homeless people are either coming in town from other states to Phoenix, and I've met a lot of people like, in not just this area, but in like North Phoenix and West Phoenix that like they don't have nowhere to go in the daytime except for like fast food restaurants to cool off. And there's not enough cooling centers for these people. I know they opened up the one at the main library 24 hours, but there should be funding to open up other cooling centers, like, for instance, when they had the convention center open for homeless people to go in the daytime in the summer for the respite a few years ago. And then on top of that, you have landlords that are price gouging people out of their apartments. And thank God the state attorney general has a lawsuit in on them, the collusion with a real page. And a lot of those people are being kicked on to the streets because they can't afford the rent from those private landlords. And so they're going to need affordable housing also to compete with these private landlords. Thank you, City Council.
Tony, thank you very much. Do we have any additional registered speakers? Hey, are there any requests from my colleagues for any additional or for requests for future agenda items? Okay. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned at 11:18 a.m. With that, thank you very much, everyone. And Hector, if you
chest and back press, elliptical, parallel bars, and knee raise.